Welcome everyone to this Thursday night Dharma talk here in the Zendo, here in the cloud, and a special welcome to Natalie Goldberg, friend, author, artist, and Dharma teacher through it all, really. This is kind of an extraordinary occasion. Well, it is just together, actually. But Natalie's been navigating illness for some months now. And we just, wow, 10?
10 months, yeah.
Wow. Wow. Scott and I joined Natalie for dinner on Monday night, and toward the end, we were getting ready to leave, and you asked, what are you going to talk about? What koan on Thursday? And I said, well, I have in mind this case, the Rhinoceros fan. It's a case. And Natalie just lit up. I love that koan. And I said, she said, oh, I'll come. And then I said, well, do you want to just give the talk? She's like, no, but then it sort of, why don't we just do it together? Let's see what happens. Yeah. It's already happening. So maybe I'll just start with a word about why this koan that I'll read in just a minute was surfacing so strongly now. At Mountain Cloud, we not too long ago had our autumn session. And as is the case, I was asked ahead of time to give it a title, and the phrase that came to mind was falling into the heart of the world. And then, so that title went up, and as the session approached, I was just sitting with this sense of falling that actually runs through Zen. There are all these different ways, like turning this jewel and seeing it here and here and here, and sort of a lens or a cipher for our life and our practice, this falling. So then we looked at this koan, a clearly awake person falls into a well. Or another one, what about when the tree withers and the leaves fall? Or Dogen's saying, when you fall to the ground, you use the ground to get up. Or his own deep, deep experience, body and mind, fallen away, fallen away, fallen away. And through all of this, somehow there's this image of brokenness and complete wholeness. I see you holding up 10. Even the word simultaneously isn't close enough. This broken whole. So I'm going to read this case, see how it lands for all of you, and then see where it goes. It's from the Shoyoroku, or Book of Equanimity, and this is case 25. It also shows up in the Blue Cliff record, that other collection, is case 91, a slightly longer version, but we're going to look at this tonight. So here's the case. One day, young one called to his attendant, "Bring me the rhinoceros fan." The attendant said, "The fan is broken." Young one said, "If the fan is already broken, bring me the rhinoceros." The attendant was silent. There's one more line that comes later. Sifu drew a circle and wrote the character for rhinoceros in the center. His presentation. So that's the case. Bring me the rhinoceros fan. Valuable object would have been this fan, made of rhinoceros bone, or some say maybe the handle of the rhinoceros horn. This is Natalie's rhinoceros. It's heavy. Some say it might have been a fan with a rhinoceros painted on it, maybe looking at the full moon. Bring me the fan. Maybe it was a hot day. Or maybe he's not missing a moment with his attendant to point to the fact of what this is. And the attendant says it's broken. The fan is broken. If the fan's already broken, bring me the rhinoceros. What is that pointing to? So, when we were there on Monday, and this koan came up, Natalie reminded me of a, I think, extraordinary essay that she wrote on this in...
I didn't say epic extraordinary.
No, just, have you read that? Yeah. And, it's been a while. And so I went back and reread this, and better than anything I could say, I'd just like to share a portion of it. Do you want to give any background to this essay?
Like what?
Like where you...
Oh, I was living in St. Paul. I went back for 2 months to begin Dharma transmission. I had to answer all the koans in the Book of Serenity. And so I lived around the corner from the Zendo. And nobody knew I was there, and I didn't know I was there. And I didn't even know what a koan was before that, because this is a very different tradition here. We did Soto Zen, where we rarely did koans. We just sat and sat and sat and sat. So go on.
Okay. Yeah, so the chapter sets up life in St. Paul and this koan study, and then I'm going to jump in. These koans might come through a particular culture, but what they are aiming at is the core of human nature. Who are we really? What is this life about? I had to learn to become a fool, a barbarian, or the moon, a lamppost, a fallen leaf, to answer the questions. But I also couldn't get stuck, not even as a single perfect plum blossom. Remember that awakening story. My mind had to become greased in its skull, a pearl rolling in a silver bowl, No settling, no abiding, no fixed residence. The koan mind does not dwell. Instead, it is alive and empty. Like a dust mote in a ray of sun, I had to let go, see fresh, like a blind donkey. These are all images from the koans. Tell me, how can something sightless see? And then later it goes on. Studying these cases brings one more fully and deeply into the structures that underlie conventional life. The cases were not created to help people disappear into a mist high on a mountain. The terrible truth, which is rarely mentioned, is that meditation doesn't directly lead us to some vaporous, glaze-eyed peace. It drops us right into the personal meat of human suffering. No distant, abstract idea of distress. Instead, we get to taste the bitter pain between our own twin eyes. With practice, we settle right down into the barbed wire nest, and this changes us. Working with koans creates a bigger heart, a tender, more close existence, a deeper seeing. She goes on, near the end of November, I turned the page to case 25, Rhinoceros Fan was the title. My mind froze. That's my usual tactic. When anything new comes along, brake, clutch, stop dead. What do I know about a rhinoceros? Aren't they African? I later found out that China did have rhinos and that their horns were carved into fans. By the way, I'm reading this today. I went online and searched rhinoceroses. They're almost extinct. But she goes on. What stumped me even more was the juxtaposition of those two words. Rhinoceros, that huge, forceful animal, probably as close to a dinosaur as we're going to find now on Earth, placed beside the word fan, something light, used to create a breeze, to refresh court ladies or southern belles. I moved on from the title to the actual case. One day Yangwan called to his attendant, "Bring me the rhinoceros fan." The attendant said, "The fan is broken." Yangwan said, "If the fan is broken, then bring me back the rhinoceros." The attendant had no reply. Sifu drew a circle and wrote the word rhino in it. Yangwan, here's the teisho. Yangwan was an illustrious disciple of Matsu. After his teacher's death, he wandered until he became the abbot of Fayo Temple. This was a monastery. The attendant was not paid staff, but Yangwan's student. As an attendant, the student had the great opportunity of extra time with his teacher. In this particular story, the student was anonymous. All the better. He could be any one of us. John or Sue or Sally, you or me. I was not sure who Zifu was. I would look him up later. So for now, I'd stay with the teacher and student interaction. More than likely, their interchange takes place in a quiet moment when Yangwan has a little time to put his attention on this monk. He's going to test him, poke him. Are you there? Yangwan and the attendant are in kinship. They had both probably lived in the monastery for many years. But Yangguan can't turn around to the attendant and say something simple like, "Do you love me?" or "Are you happy here?" Instead, there is decorum. One person is made the attendant, the other the Zen master. Of course, one has been practicing longer. So Yangguan asks for a fan. The fan is the excuse for an exchange, though it could also have been one of those unbearable hot summer days. Bring me some relief. Where's the fan? The fan is broken. He can't find another one, I'm thinking. What was going on here? That evening, after I read this case, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned. The night became deep and endless. My mind wandered over much terrain, a particular apple orchard, a young boy who died. I remembered an old friendship I once had. This line ran through my head: the relationship is broken. Broken. I sat up in bed. That is the word the attendant used. I jumped up, ran to the shelf, opened the book. I took a leap. The attendant was saying he himself was broken. Even if he referred to a fan, he was the fan. But that doesn't stop Yangguan, his teacher. Hell, if the fan, the product, was shattered, then bring back the whole rhinoceros. What a stunning concept. If the paper is torn, bring the enormous tree into the living room. Yangguan was asking this of his student and of us. Take a tremendous step, not forward, but backward, into your essential nature. Manifest your original face. Don't get stuck on something broken, a heart, a wish. Become the rhinoceros. Reveal your full self. Go to the source. Nothing hidden. You go on to talk about the beauty of this response. Just naked. Just silent. And how rare it is for us to come to that, but that this practice is an invitation. The fan is broken. Bring the whole of it right here. Then there's this last line with Sifu, who later hears about this exchange. And his response, his presentation, is to draw a circle. And the character for ox or rhino in it. You know, he could have just lifted this up. Here it is. I mean, the real rhino that we're invited to taste and see right in the midst. So Natalie, when we were talking a bit today, you said that for you sitting with this, something had come up quite strongly.
You mean this week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't sit with anything anymore. I'm just trying to get better. And I had a stroke, so we're not going to play games. And my brain is all over the place. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay. But I was listening to this, and I thought, wow, writing is amazing. She is so smart as a writer, except one word. This is how terrible writers are. One word she should have said, that means me, 20 years ago when I wrote that essay. She shot up rather than she sat up in bed. It was like, come on, Nat, shut up. And I recently realized how sad it is with writers, because it is really, I haven't read this in 20 years. I never reread what I've written, but I mean, once it gets published. But I listened to it, I thought, wow, she's smart. But writing, there's a gap. Well, there's a gap with everything. So the light can come in. I just heard that from, what's his name? Leonard Cohen. But yeah, because I realized 20 or 30, probably at least 30 years after I left Minnesota, that there was someone there who actually had been very generous to me, and I couldn't stand him. And I realized, lying in bed and listening to the Tassa horror stories, I don't know if you've seen them, they're out yet. I'm not writing them. David Chadwick has written them. And listening to them, I heard about someone, and he's in there in the very beginning, and I didn't know any of that. And I realized that I told my friend Eric, and I said, when you go have breakfast with him again, tell him that I'm sorry and that I realize how wonderful he is. And, you know, I went on. And Eric said to me afterwards, he just said, and this is why, he said, oh, that's nice. He said, did she read my book? You know, that was the one thing. Did she read my new book? Because we're mentally ill. So I was drawn particularly to this koan because it was visceral and very, what's the word? You know, a rhinoceros. It's visual. It's a visual koan. And then you have to get in it. And so when I went to bed, you have to understand I keep wandering because my brain isn't regular. But when I went to bed that night after Valerie and Scott were there, I thought my real pain now is what's going on in Israel and Gaza. And I was in Israel a long time ago, in 1981, when I sat Sesshin during Yom Kippur and Katagiri, and I said to Katagiri, the more I said, you know, the more I sit, the more Jewish I feel. And he said, well, that makes sense, because the more you sit, the more you become who you are. And he said, why don't you go study Judaism and come back in 6 months or a year? I said, you're kidding. I mean, I was completely soaked in being with him and practicing. And he said, no, go ahead. He said, if you go deep enough in Judaism, and I think with any religion, you'll find Zen, that it's not separate if you go deep enough. So I went to sleep that night. Hi. I went to sleep that night, or I didn't go to sleep. I was very excited. It hit me. We went, and I'll just speak for myself. I went to these religions, China, Japan, were the main places I went. Also, I went to, I did a bunch of that other sitting, what is it, Vipassana. But the main thing was Zen and Japanese and Chinese. And I realized that it helped me a lot. Things that I'd never heard of before, like settle the self on the self. Things that just I never heard of before. But what we had to do, or I had to do, and we all did, you reach outside the world in order to get something from another way of seeing. And then I thought, but Natalie, now it's time to bring it back. That this world is hurting. And your people, Jews and the people in Palestine, are really hurting. And you gotta do something before there aren't any Palestinians. And so I remembered, and I guess I interpreted it wrong, because in 1981, I didn't know, but I remember hearing about the horse, Barak, that on the Temple Mount, it's wild in Jerusalem, on the Temple Mount, right on top of it is a mosque. And from the mosque arrived Muhammad on a horse, Barak. And I guess he was pictured as flying. And he came and gave teachings and then would take off from there. And I said, Natalie, that's as unusual as a rhinoceros in a koan. And I thought, why don't we, and I remember thinking that in the 2 months that I was working on koans by myself. I remember thinking, why don't we also write koans? Not just go to Japan and China, but write them. But why don't we write a koan, and we maybe not call it koan, because Cohen is too Jewish, too close. So I was thinking, instead of the resolution being bombs, hate, guns, why don't we all sit with a koan? What is the Temple Mount doing with a mosque on top of it? And on top of that, Barak had flown in with a great teacher. Why don't we create a koan like that? And of course, the people over there fighting are not going to pay any attention to us. But there has to be a new angle. Not just that, to so many things that are going on. We study and we practice here, and I pretty much gave my life to this work. And but my own people were hurting. And maybe I'm too idealistic and think that we can help or there's something, but at least begin by write some koans that are here and sit with them deeply. And to answer a koan is to drop so deep to a place where you see from, you don't see. You don't see. And there just has to be something. And I was very excited. Why not? And not like why are those flowers pretty? But that could even be a koan if you go deep enough. Anything can be. Why do I have 5 fingers? Why am I lucky enough to have 5 fingers? But to drop deep enough. And the resolution is not bombs, not hate, and not guns. You have to find another answer. And I was very excited about that, about at least it's a wedge in something. You know, I've spent my life doing this, but it wasn't for, you know, but wasn't just doing it for that. And I wanted to bring Zen and writing, because I wanted to expand Zen, not just, I remember someone said, oh, when I read your book, I realized I could do something with all this sitting I did. But that isn't true. You know, it's valuable and it's good, but the world is really suffering. And I don't think we can just sit and feel it. You know, we're told that that's enough. But I don't think it was. I don't think it is. And, you know, of course we can get into more trouble and, you know, fight on fight, but no hate, no bomb, no guns. What do you do? What do you do when you don't have any arms? So, does it make sense what I'm, you know, the thing that is such a pain about Zen is you all sit there without any emotional, without any, like, you know, it's good, and it's also, you know, what do we do with this great life? And yes, I know we could get in trouble and get caught, but I think I'd rather figure out something, or at least grapple with it, rather than just sit. I mean, I probably will hear myself later and think, why didn't you just shut up? That would have been excellent. And why didn't you write shot instead of, oh, that's interesting. Write it, she shot up in bed, but not with a gun. She sat up fast. But it is a great koan. And the idea, and you know, you learn about a culture, like rhinos. Where are they? What's the rhino doing in a Chinese koan? And I loved so much the attendant who just sat. In all of them, it's the only one that I had read where someone just sat still, didn't answer their teacher.
And we don't know, you know, we don't know if he had nothing to say or if that's his presentation.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think it was his presentation. I think he was really suffering. He was in the middle of suffering. Maybe that's a presentation, to be in the middle of suffering. Yeah.
I'm really touched by the koans that, I mean, in a way, I feel they all go here, but invite us, you know, into the heart of the matter, and to let that heart break.
Yes, I agree. And not hold up that I'm okay. Yeah. And holding up "I'm okay" makes us so split because we're not okay. And it makes us split people inside. So now I've just been, I don't know, and still don't think I don't fight it and think I'm going to go back to being the way I was. And, you know, it's hard to let go. Does anyone have a question or a comment?
Yeah. If you're online and you'd like to speak,
Ay.
you can just unmute.
You know, it's gotten so sophisticated. It used to be the old days.
I would like to say that that was beautiful, so thank you.
Who is that?
That's Carolyn Seaburn online up in Canada. And she's a Sambo Zen teacher who offers Doksan online when we give session.
Oh.
Dear friend.
So when you
Oh, wait, just so they can hear.
Sure,
Yeah, hold it close.
okay. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just noticed feeling very alive and this excitement, and also really sad at the same time. But when you said, what do we do when we have no arms? And then I just imagined us all with no arms, like literal. And I thought, nah, like you just wrote, there's the koan. You just did it. For me, for that moment, just boom. Yeah, just like that. So, thank you.
I thought I was imitating. Isn't there a koan with no arms? Or
What does the bodhisattva do with all those arms? And
yeah, but what did we? Well, like you could think the other way too, with no arms. Yeah.
How do you speak without a tongue?
Yeah. It's just seeing differently. Not how we were told to see, feel, touch. What other things are there? Hear, taste.
I love the moment in your essay and your experience when it fell on you that the attendant is saying, talking about himself, I am broken. Then, well, bring me that broken fan.
Or bring me the whole rhinoceros, the whole being that's behind that is whole. But you know what I thought of? I'm trying to go back. What was it? You know, I originally came here to study at St. John's. And I would study, for instance, Socrates. We would study Socrates. And I'd keep studying him till Socrates came to my room. And I met Socrates, and then I let go. And then Immanuel Kant, who isn't a very nice person, but I kept working on him till Immanuel Kant came. And so I was thinking about that. That's no different what St. John's is doing than I'm asking you to do, and I'm asking me to do, is, pull in someone. What am I saying? let's pull in something that will attract their attention in the Middle East, besides bombs, hate, anger. You know, just some little... And also, on Tuesdays at noon, I sit for peace, and I hope some of you will join me, and Mountain Cloud. And I think Upaya started it again after I had Sitting for Peace in the Middle East. But
It's in the plaza, right?
yeah,
There.
but now it's because of, it's gotten so big and political that it's may all beings be happy, but that's really far away right now. But now I just shut up. I just shut up and sit. And it's wonderful. And last week, there was quite a bit of action. People screaming, and not the people who were sitting, but other people, you know, around the whole issue. And that was good. Anything but don't drop bombs, don't use guns, don't hate. You could abhor. You have to think of other verbs. I wanted to mention that this was a section of one of my paintings from the Luxembourg Gardens in France, and they have benches there. And when I was there, everyone all over the gardens were sitting and reading books. And it was just wonderful. It was so wonderful.
I love the little creatures that you painted in the garden.
I usually make notes when I give a talk, but I don't even know what I can't read, and I don't remember what I was going to say anyway. But I was impressed by the reading as far as my writing. It was pretty good. It was pretty good, but it was like, that's the front.
I just thought of a koan.
Okay.
Do you remember that koan of Humpty Dumpty?
Oh, yeah, Humpty Dumpty. Oh, yeah. Say it.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses, all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again. He'd fallen together after he fell apart.
Broken.
So you'd sit with that. Where did that come from? And we've carried it in our culture for so long. But what is it? You know, we were so mindless, or I was. I would just recite, Humpty Dumpty, da-da-da, but never, like, wait a minute, what happened? Why am I reciting this? So many things we take for granted.
Thank you so much for this talk and for your writing over the years. It's been such a great influence on so many people. And this koan about the rhinoceros is really interesting, and what just kind of popped up in my head, shot up in my head, when we're talking about the fan being broken and it's him saying, I'm broken. And it just reminds me of sometimes when I'm sick or when my partner, when he's sick, we're just like a mess, right? Like just, we can't breathe and hobbling around or whatever is happening. And we just look at each other and we're like, I'm just broken. I'm so broken. And then we kind of just smile and we move on. And it's like, yeah, you're broken, but it's okay. There's a sense of like acceptance of like, yep, you're a mess, and that's fine.
But the teacher says, and maybe this is the role of a teacher, if the fan is broken, if you're broken, bring me the rhinoceros. So bring me who you are, your full being. Because they're simultaneously both there.
Yes.
I've kind of lost
Yes.
my rhinoceros.
Your rhinoceros is still there.
Maybe I want it differently now. Not in the writing. And for me, maybe you can't get things for you.
I want to add my gratitude for your teaching tonight. And the thing that I'm taking away the most is that non-response, or that silence of the attendant. In the way you describe it in the essay, you really praise him for that. That he's not going to bullshit. He's not going to try to please the teacher when he's got nothing, and that nothing is so vital, so vibrant.
Think about in the Middle East if they'd all shut up for just a day. I mean, who am I to talk? But it is wild over there. I was there in '81. That's a long time ago. And I didn't know what hit me. And it's actually stronger in me now. And if I was well, I'd probably go over there. And the thing when, you read these koans, and then Zifu, I thought, Zifu, leave me alone. You have to stick your 2 cents in. It was 100 years later. Oh, that was it, that I want to talk about St. John. Like Zifu, the people who study koans were reading the koan. So Zifu, 100 years later, like me at St. John's reading Socrates, or all of us reading Socrates, Zifu was looking at the rhinoceros fan, and at that koan, and it was sort of his stamp. I always imagine him at the beach, and with a stick, circle, and putting rhino in the middle, in the sand, and it's sort of like a stamp. Yes, this is real.
Yeah, I remember doing this one time in our teacher training, and our abbot Ryon Roshi, and just saying about that stamp, that's the real rhinoceros.
The stamp.
Yeah, the table, the mat, the chair,
Oh.
you.
The cup. The pen and paper. because we've destroyed most of the rhinoceroses, unfortunately.
When Norman Fisher gave a talk on this, I ran across, he quoted Ajahn Chah, a Thai master, right? Holding up a teacup and saying, "This cup is already broken." Always already. I don't think you can lose your rhinoceros.
Pardon?
I don't think you can lose your rhinoceros.
Oh.
So,
I don't know what time it
yeah,
is.
I think it's time.
Okay.
Natalie, we thank you so much.
Thank
And,
you.